perspective of the company on the nature of the proposed transaction, what it means for Safaricom's governance and operations, and also how the company will continue to serve Kenyans within Kenya's legal, regulatory, and institutional frameworks. We welcome this committee and parliamentary scrutiny and view this engagement as a vital part of sustaining trust, transparency, and confidence in a company that serves millions of Kenyans every day. Let me briefly describe the nature of the transaction, which is primarily a shareholder action. Chairperson and honorable members, the proposed transaction before Parliament is a shareholder-to-shareholder transaction between the Government of Kenya and Vodacom. Under the proposal, the government intends to divest 15% of its shareholding in Safaricom PLC, reducing its ownership from 35% to 20%. Safaricom itself is not a counterparty to the transaction. The company is not selling shares, setting pricing, or negotiating valuation. Our role is limited to complying with the obligations applicable to a listed company under Kenyan law and capital markets regulations. In that regard, Safaricom facilitated the publication of a notice of intention on the 4th of December 2025 as required under the Capital Markets Act and the Capital Markets Public Offers Listing and Disclosures Regulations. All commercial terms, price, and structure remain matters between the transacting shareholders. Safaricom's responsibility is to ensure full regulatory compliance, timely disclosures, and continued operational stability through the process. Let me speak briefly, Chair and honorable members, about governance and regulatory oversight. It is important to state clearly that the proposed transaction does not alter Safaricom's governance framework, regulatory oversight, or national jurisdiction. Safaricom will continue to operate fully under Kenyan law. The company remains licensed, supervised, and regulated by Kenyan institutions, including the Communication Authority of Kenya, the Central Bank of Kenya, the Capital Markets Authority, the Competition Authority of Kenya, and other regulators. Safaricom remains listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange and accountable to Kenya's enforcement. I work for a chairman. I work for a telecommunication company, and my iPad has just switched me off. So I will continue because I had a hard copy. So Safaricom remains listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange and accountable to Kenyan enforcement mechanisms. That is why you always look back. Yes, that is true. That's true, Chair. There is no transfer of operational control, no dilution of regulatory authority, and no weakening of governance standards arising from this transaction. Safaricom's board, management structure, and decision-making frameworks remain intact. Let me briefly talk about Vodacom, who has been a long-term strategic partner for Safaricom and for GOK. Chairperson and honorable members, Vodacom is not new or unfamiliar to Safaricom. It has been a strategic shareholder, directly or indirectly, since Safaricom inception, has been represented on the board over the past 2 decades, and has supported the company through successful phases of growth, innovation, and expansion. Vodacom has also been a key partner in Safaricom's regional journey, including the entry into Ethiopia, bringing experience from multiple markets, technical expertise, and long-term investment capacity. From Safaricom's perspective, Vodacom's increased shareholding reinforces a long-term investment orientation. It strengthens access to best practice, technology capability, and regional insight that supports Safaricom's competitiveness and resilience as we deliver our Vision 2030, which is to be Africa's leading purpose-led technology company. Let me briefly talk about, Chair and Honourable Members, safeguards and assurance for Kenyans. Safaricom recognizes that Kenyans likely seek assurance that a company of national significance continues to operate in the public interest. Beyond structure and ownership, Kenyans care most about continuity of service, continuity of impact, and continuity of trust. At a practical level, Chair, this proposed shareholder transaction does not disrupt how Safaricom operates, how it is led, how it engages our broad ecosystem that depends on it. Our leadership team remains in place, our people continue to deliver day-to-day operations, and the culture that has defined Safaricom for more than 25 years remains unchanged. Today, Safaricom serves over 60 million customers across Kenya and Ethiopia, supporting millions of households, businesses, and institutions every day. Our platforms underpin financial inclusion, public service delivery, enterprise productivity, digital access at a national scale. That responsibility does not change as a result of shareholder movement. M-Pesa Foundation and Safaricom Foundation, which I would assume that many members sitting here will be familiar with, will continue to transform lives through sustained investment in education, in healthcare, in livelihoods, and community development across Kenya. These initiatives are integral to our purpose and central to how we define success. Equally, Safaricom's long-standing relationship with local suppliers, dealers, agents, partners remain a core strength of our operating model. Our ecosystem supports thousands of jobs and enterprises across the country, and those relationships continue in the normal course of business. From a governance perspective, Safaricom remains Kenyan-led, Kenyan-governed, and fully accountable to Kenyan institutions. Our strategic focus, management approach, and decision-making structures remain firmly in place, allowing us to stay focused on execution rather than on transition. Chairperson and honourable members, I'll talk briefly about strategic continuity and national role. For over 25 years, Safaricom has been at the centre of Kenya's digital transformation, enabling connectivity, financial inclusion, enterprise growth, and public sector digitization. That role remains unchanged. Safaricom remains committed to digitizing Kenya, deepening financial inclusion, supporting innovation across sectors, and transforming lives. The proposed transaction has the potential to broaden Safaricom access to global expertise, networks, best practices, strengthening our ability to innovate and compete. This could position Safaricom as a Kenyan brand while serving the world, while remaining firmly rooted in Kenyan regulation, public accountability, and national development priorities. Chairperson, honourable members, in closing and looking ahead, Safaricom recognizes that the process now before this committee and House reflects the very safeguards Parliament deliberately built into the Kenya Public's finance and privatization framework. From the company's perspective, the arrangements in place preserve continuity, protect national interest, and provide stability required for Safaricom to continue delivering for customers, communities, and the wider economy. As Parliament exercises its mandate, Safaricom remains confident that the framework you have established allows decisions of this nature to be assessed on their merits, lawfully, transparently, and in full regard to both present needs and long-term value. Safaricom will continue to operate with discipline, accountability, and purpose. But we are assured that the pathway before Parliament provides a sound basis for sustaining confidence, enabling responsible investment, and allowing Safaricom to remain a strong national asset serving Kenya and the region. We remain committed to working with this House and this committee and to continuing our role in supporting Kenya's digital, economic, and social transformation. Thank you, Chair, and hand over back to you.
Thanks, Leo. So we have questions starting with Manduku, Honorable Kwenya, Honorable Dawood, and Honorable Kiro, Honorable Sylvia Ruto, and then Honorable
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, CEO and your team, for a very well and precise presentation. In your opening remarks, you clearly stated that you're not involved in pricing or setting the price or even negotiating the valuation. But many stakeholders have come here and given us many ways of valuing the current assets that the government holds in Safaricom. Other stakeholders have come with new terminologies. Somebody talked about Safaricom is our national heritage. Someone else talked about intrinsic value. Someone talked about goodwill. And going by today's experience, the Kenya Pipeline has just listed today and valued at about 163 billion shillings. The share price is going for 9 shillings. A simple calculation therefore puts the share value of Safaricom today at about 65 shillings. Do you think that the current price of 34, given all this that stakeholders are raising, is a fair value? Remembering that at one point you were at beyond 44 shillings. Number two, second question. Without asking you to diverge too much about your strategic plan or your expansion plans or modernization or technology, do you foresee yourself asking the government, by virtue of holding shares in Safaricom, asking the government to inject further capital so that you can either expand or modernize? This to us is critical because then the same government will come back to this committee seeking for either additional funds or again further divestment, or even asking us to allow Safaricom to dilute its shares. The last question. You have many shareholders. Vodacom is one of them. In fact, to put it in a crude way, you have many parents. Why are you preferring one parent called Vodacom at the expense of all other parents, including the ordinary shareholders? Remembering that your stakeholders, those who operate your shops down in the village came here and made a very strong case that they are your true partners. And yet you are allowing to be taken by one parent and not all the others. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And allow me to give the CEO. Now, the proposed sale is for 15% of the shares that is the shareholding of the government. Out of the 35, 15 is proposed to be sold to Vodacom. Previously, before your arrival, we had an engagement with other stakeholders, and they came up with a proposal that instead of giving one entity controlling shares of about 50%, and maybe you have thought, well, Vodacom is giving us a good deal of 34 shillings. Now that the set price of sale be 34 shillings, but offload 9%, now the government offloads 9% to Vodacom and leaves like 6% to other stakeholders, just to make sure that not one shareholder has controlling rights. I don't know what you have to say about that, because I was so concerned. I thought it could be an option. I don't know what you have to say about that. But then I have a very burning question. I've been waiting for you to come so that then you shed light on this. assuming that this sale goes as planned, and therefore, by the time you're declaring dividends or you're paying out dividends, the 15% stake is in the hands of Vodacom. Who earns the dividends? You know, for this financial that is coming to an end on 31st. I would be interested to know, because ordinarily from where I sit, I happen to be the chairman of Parliamentarian Circle, and if a member decides to withdraw all his savings at the tail end of the year, they will still earn their payout on interest. And therefore, in this case, because I can feel as if we are rushed, so that then we beat the 31st deadline, which I don't mind, would it be that then the dividends are still going to be paid to the government, or the person who is the shareholder at the close of the year now and the dividend? That would interest me. But Chair, because I want to come back here, I have a supplementary question. The reason as to I'm mentioning that I'm the chairperson of Parliamentarian Circle is because we suffered a lot in the hands of Safaricom. Our members are suffering SIM swaps. And we're wondering, are there security lapses in this esteemed company? I would want to hear what you have to say about this, because it's becoming very rampant. We have so many cases. Members here, they'll tell you, they have lost a lot of proceeds. Some that we've lost are for members who have passed on. By the time the message is out there and their phones are off, there is a rip-off. So I would want to hear about that. So that's a supplementary question. And is there insurance that takes care of that? Because if my money is taken from my bank account without my knowledge, my bank would be very happy to compensate me. The same is not happening in Safaricom. That is supplementary. I think what should interest us first is the issue of dividends. I take first. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Chair. Mine is in one of the bullets. These pages are not, this document is not pertinent, but the one that talks about safeguards and assurances. The last bullet talks about Safaricom remaining being Kenyan-led, Kenyan government, and fully accountable to Kenyan institutions. If we look at the document presented by government, it talks about 2 seats in the board, and then the chair and the CEO being Kenyans. But this being a private company, are we talking about nationalities, or we are talking about loyalty? CEO of a company and the chairman of a company will be loyal to the shareholders of the company, not to a country. So where is this story of the only 2 people representing the government as a shareholder will be 2 directors? We don't know the number of your directors. Maybe you will answer for, you will give me an answer of how many directors you have, so that I will know 2 will be what percentage of your total directorship. How does that then become a Kenyan-led and Kenyan government company? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you,
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam CEO, for such a good presentation. We have been looking forward to you coming today, and you have really fulfilled our promise. There is a lot of questions on the table. One of the questions is, of course, this is a blue chip company. We are selling an asset which is of national interest. Every eye is looking at this stock, 15%. Most of the dealers were here, Safaricom dealers, and they have fears that once the sale is done, we are selling to a foreign company. Chances are their contracts will not be renewed.
They are saying that in the past, there have been automatic renewal. But as we go towards the close of this cell, the cell or the contract that they used to sign is not automatic. If they have to negotiate, they have to do so many things. Does it mean that with a sale of 15%, which will give Vodacom 55%, the management is going to change or it will remain the same? Number two, knowing that it's a blue chip company, that every Kenyan has interest in stocks of this company, did you actually inform the public that you intend to offload 15% of the shares? The government of Kenya is selling 15%, and they agreed with Vodacom. But why did you not give the people of Kenya an opportunity to buy at whatever price it is? I know the Vodacom are giving you the most chilling share. If it goes to the market, it might be less than that, or it might be more than that. Was it not possible to allow the people of Kenya to just buy instead of giving a foreign company? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair. First of all, I worked in after the introduction, and for record, I am CPA Julius Ruto, Member of Parliament, KSS constituency. Chair, I want to appreciate Safaricom CEO for the candid presentation. Though very mean of information. If you look at the document and the information as it is summarized as compared to the organization, it looks like a lot of information has been for some reasons against what the earlier presenters, including the Cabinet Secretary, had made. And for this reason, Chair, I want to limit myself to some very few questions. I will be dealing with a paragraph also on safeguards and assurance for Kenyans, and another discussion that it never came out of this, or probably because the CEO has focused on the operations of the business, disregarding any other discussions. Chair, when the CEO says that at a practical level, this proposed shareholding transaction does not disrupt how Safaricom operates, how it is led, and how it engages the ecosystem that depends on that. And if you go down there, the summary that from the governance perspective, Safaricom remains Kenyan-led, Kenyan-governed, and fully accountable to the Kenyan Constitution. Chair, we know Safaricom is a company, and for that reason, a listed company. We know what the company law speaks about. Today, with this reorganization or restructuring of the equity ownership, Vodacom is coming in as a majority shareholder, where it's going to grow its control from the current 40% to 55%. Company is very clear that whosoever is in control determines the operations of the business because he controls the board. When there is a vote to be made, of course the majority wins. What is the certainty from your statement that the new board which will be composed post this reorganization will not change the business course, will not reorganize the innovation? We are priding Safaricom being the very innovative company. We have the M-Pesa now, that is the first e-payment system more than the other worlds, and they are following. If you go to every other part of the world, they refer Kenya because of M-Pesa. What if this M-Pesa have been competing and inhibiting the progress of other systems controlled by the same company outside there? What if they come today? What is this assurance? Most presenters have come here lamenting on the security of data. What is the assurance? Because you are speaking from the point of view of management, but you are subject of the board. And it is the new board that will decide the course and direction of the business. So how do you give this confidence, Mr. CEO, to Kenyans who are looking at you today, when you say nothing will happen, when the truth is decision will change? Because the decision makers will have shifted. At least where we are now, And probably, Chair, you allow me, it is in public domain, please allow me to speak. I don't need someone else, allow me to speak, Chair. Protect me, Chair.
Number one is we have interrupted, we get your chance.
Please. Chair, it is in public domain, it's nothing to be hidden. If the CEO would tell us the current composition of the board, in terms of ratios, those who are coming from the government, those that are coming from the board, and as I declare my interest, I'm from the minority interest. You never told us about the minority shareholders. Chair, there is something that came up in this negotiation, the issue of advance dividends. It is something that we will not got it clear. How is this advance dividends arrived at? Is it a loan? Is it what kind? Because immediately we change the shareholding. These dividends that we are saying they are paid in advance, they are 40 billion. What is the arrangement? And because CEO, you are privileged to sit in that board. Chair, the issue of interest of suppliers, again, CEO has talked about. There was one presenter who was here, Transcend Media Corporation, and others who have expressed their worry. How would you give confidence that those issues will not be distorted? Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you,
The Chairman, I will not be debating my questions as I do. Chairman, number one, to ask the CEO of Safaricom is, did the Kenya government possess any preemptive or contractual or federal rights regarding the identity of the purchaser of its shares? Number two, as the Safaricom board formally approved the transaction as a reserved strategic matter, including consideration of changing control implications. Your answer is yes. Do you have minutes that you can provide to this committee that decision was done at the board level? Third, perhaps the last, well, some of my questions have been answered elsewhere. See, Kenya is a country of litigations. Thousands of litigations. Litigations especially on disclosures, contravention of law, acts of parliament, constitutional branch of the constitution. Is there in a way, because I have seen from your presentation, everything is good and does follow the law. Are you aware of any contravention of this transaction, of any law or constitutional provision or acts of parliament that this transaction in one way or another may not be a subject of litigation? And subsequent question here is that now that Vodafone will enjoy majority shareholding and decision making at 55% could be the majoritarian. There is an investment in Ethiopia. The Ethiopian market. Safaricom has invested a lot of money in Ethiopia. Is there return of investment for the Ethiopian market? Because what we hear is, you looked at the population, but the people of Ethiopia do not have the purchasing power. And therefore you are sending a lot of money. And perhaps Vodafone now will say, stop the Ethiopian market, tell us something about the Ethiopian market and so on.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this presentation. Here I'm looking at this presentation, the headline on governance and regulatory oversight. The first bullet is, it is important to state clearly that the proposed transaction does not alter Safaricom governance framework, regulatory oversight, or national jurisdiction. I want to read that one with a section paper. Page 4, 3, Roman 3, the last one. Through this transaction, Vodacom has made various commitments, including no acquisition-related redundancies within 3 years of 3 years of the transaction. ensuring the chairman and the independent directors remain Kenyans, as well as Vodacom continued support of the Safaricom Foundation. Staff returns us within 3 years. So that means the staff are only protected for 3 years. After 3 years, what happens? Including Honorable SS want to ask, including the CEO. so yeah, all of you, what happens? Because basically, if somebody requires 25%, most of the decision is about to make the decisions. And the decision should be favorable to the enhancement of his goal and whatever. What about strategic decision? Because we are going to see this strategic decision taking place after Safaricom, not Safaricom, Vodacom acquire this one, which will actually affect the dealers. Dealers were here, but they are a little worried about what kind of decisions you should make and how they are going to affect them in future. The last one, Safaricom has been dealing with security data and election data, in terms of transmission of data. And to me, it's because of the heavy government presence, which we would have been able, basically because government is there, you could have influenced, government could have influenced you to do this. Now, to handle that kind of data, what is going to happen, since the government is going to be a minority shareholder? No, they may not have decision, and the board can decide. We are not going to deal with this kind of data. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, my concern is on the security of this country. When I see you are a Kenyan like me, and you understand that Safaricom is holding a lot of information on all of us here and the country at large. Now, we want the majority shares to be held by an outsider. And the future is unknown. One day, a madman in quotes wakes up from anywhere and says, we want to buy, most of the shares say they go up to 70%. And if they hold a share of 70%, you know the minority have completely no say. Of course, we talk of regulations out there, mentioning all the regulatory agencies that they will cover this, but you never know. So the fear by the CEO is the security of this country. Has it been analyzed or discussed or confirmed that the security of this country will remain stable? If anything like that was discussed in your board, possibly, we would want to know the security of this country and the security of the Kenyans, whose details can be read at Safaricom as you read a letter. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kalum. Then Honorable Kipichi.
Yes, Chair. First, to thank Safaricom for agreeing to send the memorandum and articles of association for our own review and perusal. And I hope that will be complied with, Chair, under your directions in good time. And I wanted to know the board structure and the management structure of Safaricom relative to the shareholding currently. and how this may be impacted upon by the proposed divestiture. Now that you say throughout your statement that neither the control nor the leadership of this company will change. Number two, there are various stakeholders in Safaricom, the shareholders, there are dealers, there is an association which called itself Partners when they appeared before us here. The dealers in particular indicated to us that they employ about 1.2 million people across Kenya, if I were to be correct. And they were such a core or primary shareholder of Safaricom. Have you held a shareholders meeting to inform them and to get their views of these transactions? Have you held a meeting with your dealers and these other stakeholders just to disclose the fact of this transaction for their decision also, because it may affect them in future? Number three, Safaricom proceeds currently on a shared prosperity model. And I think this is why you have bodies like M-Pesa Foundation, you have Safaricom Foundation, even in terms of your investments across the country because of your other public interest issues. You go beyond the mere commercial age or pursuit, that you'll be putting masks even in areas where commercial gain may not be there, but because of those security, your role in democracy, you will do so. When Vodacom gets 55% of shareholding, it will have the control of the company. It will have the control in the decisions of the company. I wanted to ask how you foresee the good work you have been doing under M-Pesa Foundation, under Safaricom Foundation being sustained, for Vodacom to drop this shared model, because they are investing, they want to reap investment and say this no longer makes sense, we are going for business trade. What is the sustainability of those issues? Lastly, Chair, Vodacom is 40% shareholder in Safaricom. The shares in Safaricom currently are trading at around 28-29. They are your partners even as you extend out of the country. What do they know that is urging them to give you 34 shillings per share with alacrity without question? Let me ask another way. Being in the management of Safaricom, where do you see Safaricom's growth prospects? Can you give us your economic forecast going into the future? Chair, lastly, because that may also help us on behalf of the people, gauge what should be the right value of the shares of Safaricom. Remember, we have not made a decision that this transaction is going ahead. But Chair, lastly, you have said throughout how the regulatory framework, I think it is the major, the greatest plank of your presentations here. So how the regulatory framework will still remain the same. I've been in this parliament long enough to know why we brought in the Current Companies Act, the Insolvency Act, I was at the heart of them, and the laws around ease of doing business, including the Registration of Businesses Act. In fact, I was taken to New Zealand and Australia when we were transacting those legislations. Safaricom, if this transaction goes through, will be having 55% shareholding. What will tie them to Kenya when the regulatory framework becomes too hard and unconducive to their business? What will stop them from leaving this place? I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. That's the honorable CPS Kuleka.
Chair, thank you. My question was asked by the Honorable Kaluma, yes. I also wanted to know about the market price, and we know it has been affected by many other factors, but how did we arrive at the 34? That is what I wanted to know. And from the public and from the many stakeholders that we've been hearing the last few days, there is concern about the market price. And Safaricom is not just one company. How are we valuing the rest of the subsidiaries under this main company? Thank you.
Mheshimiwa Paul Kibichibia.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And maybe introduce myself. My name is Paul Ndegwa, Member of Parliament, Chisumei constituency in Nandi County, and I'm a member of the Finance and National Planning Committee. My questions are just straightforward questions in your presentation pertaining strategic continuity and the national road. You expressed that there is the proposed transaction has the potential to broaden Safaricom success. So I'm wondering, currently constituted, does it have that access, or this is going to accelerate the access? And number two, it's come to my attention that there's an investigation on offences of conflict of interest and theft of intellectual property rights relating to tendering and award of Safaricom's creative and digital services. So by you selling this, have you factored in, just in the event the court awards complainant compensation? How are you going to go about it, and are you aware of that? And lastly, you've also said in your long-term strategic plan that you gave an upper hand to Vodacom in the purchase because you have been with them for a long time. Maybe, is that the reason why you did not float to the general public, and how long then has the general public been having shares? Because is that also part of why you felt that Vodacom was going to be the best? And as many of my colleagues have also said, this 34 price, are you convinced that you will not get higher than the 34 shillings? Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe one or two from myself. On this share price question, I think CEO what Kenyans are asking, you, the one who run this business, are you fairly priced at that share price, or could we get a better price for it? With Vodacom now taking over majority control of the company, I'm wondering how we do ensure that Safaricom still maintains Kenya-centric innovations and programs, rather than the Vodacom worldwide-based programs. You know, like now the majority shareholder, how do we still ensure that your priorities are more Kenyan-centric than they are group-wide Vodacom priorities? And then on M-Pesa, Kenyans are worried about the pricing sovereignty for Kenya, both for M-Pesa transactions, for data and voice. Will we lose that sovereignty of the prices that you set for Safaricom services to to now the parent company, which is Vodacom South Africa. With this upfront payment of dividends, do you foresee that affecting your capital allocation priorities, or even when you seek reinvestment of your network in future, now that already there is this upfront dividend that government of Kenya is seeking? Of course, the issue of the guarantee to Safaricom dealers is, will the pricing model continue? Will the residual plan with mode of payment continue, or will they get the Vodacom version where agents and Safaricom dealers do not carry as much upfront importance as that of the parent company, Vodacom? On Safaricom Foundation, when the government of Kenya is the majority shareholder in the company, there is a drive to be people-centric, to have programs that take care of people. With Vodacom as a majority shareholder, Vodacom is purely profit-driven. And of course, all these investments you make on your CSR projects, will eat into the profits of Safaricom. So what guarantees are you giving this committee that those programs will continue, and they will continue in the same scale of growth as the growth of Safaricom? So that we're not sure if you're spending 1 billion shillings and the company grows, then also that investment grows. And how do we also, again, for this Safaricom Foundation, make sure that we safeguard the Kenyan priority programs and not the group-wide international programs? Is it going to be, if you're setting up a mast in some remote village in Baringo, that maybe only going to use a few additional subscribers, would you forego that to investing more profitable, because Vodacom, the parent company, is more profit-driven than if it was government of Kenya? Over to you, see.
Honorable Chairperson, but also honorable members, thank you for all the questions. There are very many. I hope that I've captured all of them, but to the extent any of the questions that I miss, I'm sure my team will pick it up. And also anywhere where I may not have a straight answer, we can always respond with written submissions to this committee. There was also, Chair, there was also quite a few things that were common. So hopefully when I address one of each of the themes, it can address a few of the questions. So I will start in the order that the questions were asked. So Honorable Maduku, so 3 questions. Valuation, whether there is additional capital to expand, or some sort of rights issue, and whether we considered why Vodacom versus others in terms of purchase. In terms of share price, I think it was a common theme around all the questions. As I said in my written statement, representing the company, we were not involved in determining or actually seeking to see what the right share price is. Because when two shareholders are having a transaction, you leave it to them to actually determine how they want to conclude a transaction. Of course, I'm sure many presenters will have come in, including the Treasury, to tell you how the price may have been determined. And my understanding is the price was determined based on the average trading price in the past 6 months, because Safaricom PLC is a listed business, and therefore the most representative price is usually the listed price that you see on the stock exchange. Of course, that varies, ups and downs, and that's the reason why you have to do an average of whatever price. There are other mechanisms of delivering valuation. We were not privy to what mechanisms were determined, but we are aware that there's a professional advisor that was used to be able to determine what was the best mechanism. Certainly, the price that is been offered to the government is higher than the average price, and there's a clear premium. I think one of the members asked, the honourable members asked, what Vodacom know if they are paying a price premium. I wouldn't answer that. But having run a company of this size, investors will look and see how they want to look at value of a company. Clearly, Vodacom and government are significant shareholders, so they will look beyond just the dividends that they earn from the shares in terms of what they are interested in the company in determining what price to go after. But certainly, in the end, it was a decision between the two shareholders to come up with a price of 34, and we'll be happy to give you any further information that you might require. But I should say the company in no way has been involved and should not be involved in a shareholder transaction, because we are the subject of the actual sale of shares. So we will not necessarily be involved. We do have our own view about how the company should be valued, and we communicate with investors because it's a listed business. Every time we announce our results at full year and also half year. And our investors, when you look at all what is called analysts' valuations, there's a consensus that they come up with. And that's something that we would be happy to provide to this committee to see what the analysts' consensus is, because they use various methods, including discounted cash flows, various methods to arrive at the price, and also they forecast into the future, depending on the management information that they have received. And also, because they are specialists, they would have the ability to do that. So we'll be happy to provide that if that is useful to this committee. In terms of whether we would be asked by to seek additional capital to expand, should we need to expand or should that need arise, I should just point through the chair, I should point the committee to, in the past 3 years, we have actually gone into Ethiopia. We have been able to expand into Ethiopia. Safaricom holds just roughly 54-55% shareholding. The rest is held by other shareholders, including a small shareholding by Vodacom. And we have been able to fund that investment through internally generated funds. And we actually have very low gearing, which means our business is able to generate the cash that allows us to expand and actually meet our commitments. And we have been growing very, very strongly, as you know, from the results that we have announced. We have the cash flows to be able to meet the expansion needs we have, and we have low debt. You'll have noticed that our debt levels compared to benchmarks are actually relatively low, which means we are able to generate enough funds. So we do not expect shareholders to come to us and ask, we do not intend to seek additional capital from either the government or Vodacom to be able to expand, at least not in the near term. And then we also pay dividends at a very good level, and we intend to retain that dividend policy going forward, because that has been standing and has been stable for a very, very long time. In terms of whether you should, whether these transactions should have considered other potential purchasers beyond Vodacom, which was the third question. Safaricom is a listed business, so one option would have been that the government could have put some of its shares onto the stock exchange. That is always a possibility, but the government in this instance chose to sell it as one block to one investor. It does not disenfranchise or disadvantage shareholders who are on the stock exchange, because they can go and actually buy those shares, indeed at actually a lower price. So if you're a shareholder, it doesn't, as a retail investor, you are not disadvantaged in any way, because the actual shares are traded in a fairly liquid share. So I think in terms of why Vodacom was chosen, partly I would assume is because of the longevity in terms of relationship with the government of Kenya, the fact that it understands Safaricom and has been involved in Safaricom's growth and expansion since the beginning. But also partly because the government intended that this transaction is done in a way that would conclude in the simplest way possible, preserve the value that they would get, the government would get, but also not disenfranchise any interested group. Should a new shareholder have been introduced, I would expect that those shareholders would also come with new views about how the business should be run. Whilst it is likely that the government understands and has had a relationship with Vodacom for a long time. So I'll go to the next set of questions or answers. Honorable Tuku, I think I've answered the question about whether 9% should have been sold to Vodacom and then 6% to others. And I was speculating if that was possible or actually whether that should have been necessary. But I think the government was intending to sell a 15% stake to one individual. And then on dividends, I think if I remember this question on dividends, it is that given that we are going to be declaring dividends in the near term, who is entitled to those dividends? That was the question. Now, if the dividends are declared pre-transaction completing, they will go to the shareholders who hold those shares at the time that the dividends are declared. Should dividends be declared after the transaction is complete, then of course it's just like the way you buy shares on the stock exchange. If you are holding shares at the time when dividends are declared, then the person who is holding shares is the one who is entitled to dividends. I don't think because a listed business, there's no other easier way of describing that. But if there's anything that I've got wrong there, I'm sure the Treasury team can actually clarify.
That's the whole suspicion, because as you see, we're dealing with public trust, and you're dealing with a very informed public. The timing of this sale, and of course, within 28 days, you must complete. So, in essence, what the CEO is saying, by the close of this business, dividends that should have come to the government will be paid to Vodacom. So is it not in our interest to delay this sale until the beginning of April? Then we can pass the sale maybe on April 2nd or 1st or on April Fool's Day, so that we fool the people who want to fool us. That's my take. I believe the 7 billion, because even the fact that I know your dividend policy, if I were to go by your accounts for last financial year, a whole 7 billion by the strike of a pen, I think it's in our interest to delay this sale, at least for a day, so that then we get value for this sale. Otherwise, if things go the way they are going, I don't think we'll also look, that would appear like a rip-off. And the money is not coming to Kenya. The money is, that dividend to be cutted away to a foreign country. It will have multiple implications in terms of exchange rate. So really,
you're raising a very valid point, Kenya, but that decision lies on you, and not on the CEO of Safaricom. And you're raising again a very valid point. The session of paper, when later the communication from the chair starts counting of the days, of the 28 days on the 10th of February. So the starting of counting of the 28 days starts on 10th. So the 28 days will end on around 8th of March. And Safaricom declares their dividends at around what month? Usually the end of the that first of? Yes, so that's why I'm saying the dates is your decision to make, because Safaricom run their business as they do, as regulated by CMA, NSC, and all their regulators. But that information is important, is material, so that as you make your decision, you know that when you make the decision affects who gets paid the dividends.
Chair, I'm not even seeing anything wrong there because you see we are already getting dividends in advance. So even that one can cover.
Chair, I think there is a discussion. I'm the one who has raised that question on the advance dividends. Because Chair, from the presentation of the Cabinet Secretary, he indicated that the advance shares are in lieu of future dividends for the residual. That if the residual is the 20%. So that's why I was raising up that question. This lieu implies what? I think it has no correlation or relationship with the current dividends we declared.
Yes, maybe perhaps, CEO, how you could help us understand this is in the reverse risk dividends are being paid in lieu. Will that be affected by your time of declaration of the dividends as on as Kenya raised? Maybe that information would be very important as this commitment.
Yeah, Chair and honourable members. So I think that's the critical point. That because of the advanced dividend clause, the government does not lose, because if dividend is paid, then the providing they don't receive any dividends, then they would remember that they are receiving some dividends in advance, and those are in lieu of future dividends. So the government actually doesn't lose any dividends.
How much was the dividend for government last year?
Chair,
and what is projected this year?
Yeah. So Chair, can I?
Members, could I suggest that we just go with the first line of questions that you asked, and then we will come to further clarification of second line of questions, so that it's a bit also for the record, because now we will.
But Chair, on dividend, it could just clarify. The only clarification we seek to know is what was the dividend last year, or how the dividends have been moving, maybe for the last 3 years, so that we can project.
You take that as a first question for the second round of questions. So as we finish with the first round of questions, then that becomes the first question in the second round of questions. Proceed, CEO.
Yeah. So what I wanted to clarify, and I'm happy to then follow up with something written and join it up with the Treasury, is that the government does not lose regardless of when the dividend is being paid. So the timing is really not a factor because they are receiving dividends in advance. The payment they get is in lieu of future dividend, not anything else. So they're actually not losing. The only time the government is not receiving dividends is because they are not entitled to those dividends. So I will come back to that as part of the written submission. But as far as I know, the government is not losing.
Because I have to make this job.
Because I am coming out.
It's not coming out way.
Because I told nothing. There are so many questions I asked.
Yes, Chair, but that is important to us because it involves a lot of money. We're talking about 7 billion. Based on last year's accounts. You know, the CEO said, allow me, Chair, respectively so, the CEO has said the person who will be the owner of the shares on 31st, when they declare dividends, who is the person who is going to receive the dividends. That's the position. So whatever else we're talking about, the advance dividends that are going to be paid, it is for the coming financial years. How many years? For how many years?
Until the dividends are paid until they catch up.
Exactly. Yeah. So it is from 2026 April to now going forward. But backwards, that dividend is going to be paid to Vodacom if this sale is going to go through. And that's the clarification that we want.
Allow me to read something. It's a document that is before us. The Cabinet Secretary tabled it. Paragraph 3.3, you will refer to the presentation by the CS, says that additionally, the proposed transaction includes a further aspect wherein Vodacom will make an upfront payment of 40.2 billion to the government in lieu of the future dividends that will accrue to the government on the government's residual
20%. So that the question raised by Kenya is not related to this. In any case, the further question that is included, what does it imply? Is it what we always refer as securitization, where government is borrowing from affordable to be repaid back? Thank you.
Chairman. Now that we've opened the dialogue.
Chairman.
Let's have just a clarification sought by
what Honorable Julius Ruto has read. The 40 billion or so advance payment is on the dividends or of the dividends for the 20% shareholding.
Yes.
Not the dividends that will be due. That was the subject matter of the question, if I understand it well. Yeah, so your question, whether you answer it now or later on as the chair guided, remains. The 40 billion or so is the projected future dividends on the 20% stake in terms of shareholding that the government will remain with.
Yes.
The question they were asking is the dividends which are going to be due by, we say June, to which entity between government and are they going? And the question I was asking is, what is your projection about them?
Let's call on CEO.
Chairman, the facts that I get from this conversation is that, one, after the government selling the 15%, it realized it's not enough money. They are only raising 204. Two, they decided to forfeit their dividends for the whole year at the wee hours of earning it for the entire 35%. They are losing it at the wee hours. Then secondly, the government is forfeiting all the dividends of the remaining 20% for a longer period until it is complete. Whether it is securitization or whatever nature, that is the position by the CEO. That confirmed to us that position. Because even the 20% now will be dead capital for the government of Kenya for some time until the advanced dividends are repaid fully. That, if that is the case, then leave the rest to us to deal with in our report.
Chair, thank you. Chair, I'm on the mic.
Hold on, just give members a time
Yes.
to digest.
I think this question, to me, they asked me the answer. Just a minute. You see, when you read this paper, they will say Safaricom itself is not a counterpart to this transaction. That's what they are saying. So, no, just a minute. Let me finish. When you are selling shares, there are two things. One, you can sell the shares and have rights to the dividends. That's part of you sell, but you still have rights to the dividends. Two, you can sell shares and forgo the dividends. So this question we are asking, and that's why I still insist. With all discussion we have been having since Monday, we still need not Safaricom. We still need Treasury, National Treasury, yes, to come and clarify this kind of things. Because as Kenya said, to forgo 11 billion is a lot of money. We are looking for money. So there's no way you can forgo in 10 days. For what you are about to for what you are about to go the whole year, and we are looking for money, and we are even forgoing dividends. So Mr. Ndegwa may not have an answer to this, but we need pressure to come and tell us what is happening.
Yeah, Chair.
Let's have Honorable Daud and Honorable Kiro on that particular matter, then we go to
Chair, I think the CEO has helped us a lot. The best thing he said is that whoever owns the shares on 31st on 31st March 2026 is going to earn the dividends. That is, so he has already helped us. And Chair, you have already talked about the timeline. The timeline depends on us. So if the government still holds that those 15% shares on 31st, they will earn the 7 billion. If they don't hold, they will not earn the 7 billion. So it is up to us to make sure that, because we haven't even approved this transaction. We are talking about the future. So if we approve this transaction, we can only approve after the 31st. And if we don't approve, that's another story. So thank you very much for clarifying when the dividends will be paid and to who the dividend holder, the shareholder, at the time of payment of dividends. So I think he has clarified. We don't need anything from you. We will deal with Treasury. Thank you.
Can I just add on what Mheshimiwa Daudi has said? I think the CEO of Safaricom made it very clear. Whoever will be, if there's 15% will be, have been offloaded to the new shareholder, then the dividends go to that new shareholder. It's simple as that. So I think let's not belabor on this point, make progress, and what that has given us is an opportunity, because I was sitting here and I think CS Treasury clearly said, by March we will get our dividends. That's what he said. So I think we have an opportunity to call Treasury again. I think the main person who is offloading the shares is Treasury. We should not be targeting Safaricom. So let's make progress, allow him to answer the other questions rather than fall, and then if there's any matter to be followed up, we'll ask the question.
Why we are being CEO is by the fact that by Companies Act is a secretary to the board, and I'm sure all this information are transacted there.
Yeah, but if you read
this question, this particular one. How much did government earn last year in dividends? When you declared last time, how much they earned? And is it possible to move the date of the closing of this sale to a different date where the government will receive the dividend?
So let me help guide honorable members why I said this decision might square the new. The communication from the chair said that the counting of the days will start on 10th of February. Okay? Our PFM Act section 87A says 5, the National Assembly shall consider the proposed sale within 28 sitting days of receipt. Within 28 sitting dates. If the National Assembly declines the proposed sale, the clerk shall notify the CS of the resolution of the National Assembly. So if we decline, it will be notified and the transaction will die, will fall. If we do not approve within the 28 days, then it will be moved to be approved. But then, and this question is very important, but in the interpretation of sitting days, is it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Is it Tuesday morning, one day, Tuesday afternoon, second day? So every sitting is a day, right? So if on Tuesday we have 2 sittings, those are 2 sitting days. That's what I'm saying, that information is not necessarily for the CEO, it is for your consumption and decision making. So following the process is not only what is crucial, but also ensuring that we can get those days in line with now section 87A of the PFM Act that defines what those sitting days are. So the day you make the decision is very important, not just as a committee, but as a house. Is very material actually to who gets the dividends and what happens after that. In any case, Safaricom, whether the dividend is paid to Vodacom or is paid to GOK, is neither here nor there, because there's this.
But Chair, why don't you then adjourn these meetings, we make a decision?
You cannot make a decision. You need all the information. Had we adjourned this yesterday, you will have got this such information. So as we go through public participation, we could get additional information that will, not that we will get additional information that will enhance our decision making.
Actually, if he continues answering your questions, you might get more information. So let's not stop at this. Allow him to respond to the question. So you might get more info that will be of help to us.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, honourable members. So on that note, I am happy for the Treasury to clarify with respect to the dividend piece on the entitlement, both in this year but also subsequently as part of their submissions. Okay, so I'll go to the next question. I think there was a question about SIM swaps, which is more related to the way the business looks after information and also how we manage fraud, cyber security, and all that. What I would say is that Safaricom's commitment to adhering to safe, secure, always on network will always be there, regardless of the shareholding. The change in shareholding does not change in any way how we look after the customer's interest. Remember, regardless of which shareholder comes on Safaricom or which shareholding you have within Safaricom, our guarantee to our customers is they will receive a safe, secure, always on. And we are familiar and aware of some of the complaints around based on potential fraud and potential areas, especially around SIM swaps, which is basically criminal activity. And we continue to do a lot of work in terms of investment, in terms of securing customer identity. Many times, a lot of this happens because customers are called, and actually they're the ones who actually disclose their identity or potentially their security features. So my commitment as CEO of Safaricom is that we are committed, regardless of shareholding, to adhere to the data privacy, to the data security based on the Kenyan laws, and there's no change in shareholding or structure that will affect that now and into the future. So then I'll go to the third set of questions, which are Honourable Eden. I think you asked a very interesting question, whether the fact that we have a Kenya CEO, but also Kenyan CEO, but also Kenyan chairman makes it Kenyan. I think the broad way of thinking about this is to say Safaricom has always, from the very beginning, for 25 years, been about transforming lives in Kenya. That's why we set up all the foundations, Safaricom Foundation and M-Pesa Foundation. It has been a Kenyan company from a spirit perspective. All we are saying is going forward, it will continue to have that DNA. We will not have a change in brand identity. Safaricom brand will continue to be what it is. The colors will not change. If for anyone who might have thought that colors of Safaricom will change from green to something else. There are safeguards that have been put as part of the deal that the management identity, but also, and it doesn't mean all of them will always be Kenyan. It just means the nature of management would project a Kenyan identity. Both management, but also most of the board members who are independent board members will also have Kenyan identity. Today, it is the case that all Kenyan-based board members are actually Kenyan, and therefore I want to leave that at that. There was a big question around
I asked for the structure of the board.
Okay.
The current as it is.
Yeah.
And envision if this deal were to go through, how it will look like, so that we can test the Kenyanness of Safaricom, as we said.
Okay.
And then the other thing you have not also answered is your loyalty. Is it a nationality issue or an employer issue? Because your relationship to Safaricom is an employer-employee. It has nothing to do with nationality or what passport you carry. So the fact that a Kenyan sits at the helm of an institution does that make it Kenya? Thank you.
I think through the chair, on the structure of the board, we're happy to provide that. But basically, today we have 4 board members from Vodafone, 3 from government and 4 independents. So there's only going to be one change, which is 2 government board members, 1 more for Vodafone. So that's purely the change. There is no other change that is going to happen. All the safeguards that have been put is that the independent board members plus the management of the company would be primarily Kenyan, which represents the interest of the country, because we don't want a Kenyan company that is primarily run by foreigners. So that is, it is not so much because of nationality, but when you have an orientation from a nationality perspective, it reflects your understanding of the culture and the country. And therefore, being a Kenyan CEO, I feel connected to the Kenyan society, and that's actually what is being preserved. And that's also what will help also preserve the relationships we have had for a very long time with dealers, with agents, with suppliers. We have been having a very good relationship with our dealer community. And notwithstanding the fact that in the past, Safaricom has not been run by a Kenyan CEO, but Safaricom has always had a Kenyan DNA. And that's what we are saying will continue to persist into the future. And I know there's a question that has been asked about, are we going to change? Is there going to be change as a result of this transaction on the way dealers are treated? Dealers, agents are the lifeblood of our business. They have been the reason why Safaricom has been successful from the very beginning. And they have grown because Safaricom has grown. And Safaricom has grown because dealers have also grown. And as we continue to expand, we continue to grow with dealers. And I do not see, as CEO of Safaricom, and there has been safeguards built into the transaction, that anything will change other than the business changes, you kind of continue to improve innovation and so on and so forth. Those changes are natural, like COVID came in and you have to change as the environment changes. But the nature of our relationship as partners with dealers is actually not going to change. And I'm going to say the same to all the dealer community. And I will meet them and tell them the same. And I've met dealers for many times that they should not worry that this transaction is going to lead to any significant change in terms of models, in the way we operate, but also the way we treat them. Because we actually pay them to grow their business. And therefore, as a result of that, our business grows. And that's what we mean by being Kenyan. And I may envelope this with a number of other questions which were saying, would Vodacom coming in or increasing its stake lead to us making decisions that are not in the best interest of the country, like putting radio masks in places which may not be commercially viable, or ongoing work that we have done with our foundations. Our foundations have been set up as trusts, and they will continue to be, and they have a long-term funding mechanism. So we continue, as I've said in my statement, to invest in health, in education, in economic empowerment, and in livelihoods across all our 47 counties. We just launched a very big program we are calling Citizens of the Future, where we are going to build 100 schools every year over the next 5 years. Yeah, that's not affected by this transaction. We are going to train 10,000 teachers. We are going to be sponsoring 2,000 students every year into high school and also TVETs. That is funded under the M-Pesa Foundation. That's just one program on education. We have healthcare, we have economic empowerment and livelihoods. Those will not change. We have someone also asked, and I'll go into the specific detail about the strategy of the business. We have a vision for 2030 we are calling Africa's leading purpose-led technology company, moving from just being a telco to a technology business. And that journey will continue. Vodacom has been involved in crafting that journey. The board is the one that approved that journey. And it is not going to change as a result of this happening. Because as a result of that ambition, we are growing this business. A new shareholder, a shareholder increasing their stake means they have confidence in the business growing into the future, and will continue to sustain that investment horizon. And then I think there was another question about Vodacom came in, and we are relying on if the regulatory framework didn't work, what would happen? Would they decide to leave? You know, the investment, the Vodacom has been with us, or Vodacom has been with us for 25 years. Yeah, they are just increasing their shareholding in a business that they understand, in a country that they are committed to long term. They have partnered with us to go into Ethiopia. Ethiopia would not have happened if Vodacom as a board member, but also as a shareholder, did not approve, together with the government and also minority shareholders in an AGM, approve for us to expand into Ethiopia. I do not see that changing into the future. So that's what we mean by retaining the DNA of Safaricom, being very, very much in. Yeah, so I go to CPA J. Ruto. I think at one side, yeah, I think the only question I wanted to emphasize is are we going to continue to be innovative, Chair, in the same way that we have been as a result of the increase in shareholding by Vodacom? And my answer to that is Vodacom has been part of this success, and therefore we do not see them increasing shareholding actually affecting the way we innovate. Because the reason why they believe in the company is because we are a very innovative company, and therefore we do not see any likelihood of any change. And that's why they have been very happy to give the safeguards in terms of no change in terms of the way we operate going forward. And that also relates to our ecosystem suppliers being committed to maintaining a large proportion of our supply base being local, which has also been a key ingredient of our success. Yeah. Okay. So there was a question there, Chair, about from one of the honourable members about whether the board approved the transaction and whether there are minutes of that transaction, of that approval. Yeah. So the transaction, as I've said, has been between the two shareholders. The board got notification of the transaction as required under the CMA regulation. And therefore, the board noted that the two shareholders are having a transaction, and noted its obligation as far as its role from a company perspective, from a board perspective in terms of compliance, but also notifications to various parties, and that's why we issued the notice in the papers confirming to the public that this transaction was happening. In terms of minutes, yes, of course, we could always make the minutes. We could ask through the chair, committee secretary can come and read the minutes and see the documentation of our meeting. And then the other question that was asked is on Ethiopia. We have invested a lot of money, and given that the increase in shareholding by Vodacom, will this stop? We do not believe that anything will stop as far as Ethiopia is concerned. I should say that Ethiopia, we are past the peak investment phase. We have invested in a network that is about half the size of Kenya network, almost now 3,500 sites, just over 12 million customers. And we believe now we are at a good stage, and Ethiopia in the future will be a big driver of growth for our business, for Safaricom business. And Vodacom has been very supportive of this transaction. They are one of the shareholders in this transaction, and therefore we do not see any change as far as Vodacom's commitment to investing in Ethiopia. Yeah. So there was a broad question about protection of employees. I should say that Safaricom has been a growth business from the very beginning and has been an innovative business from the very beginning. The intention is to continue to grow, and that's why our objective is to be a purpose-led, is to create Africa's leading purpose-led technology company, and also that's the reason why we have invested in Ethiopia. And at the same time as we have invested in Ethiopia, the Kenya business has continued to grow. I want to state to the committee, through the chair and honorable members, that we do not intend to change numbers of employees, contract terms of employees as a result of this transaction. Indeed, in the past few years, as we have continued to grow as a purpose-led technology company, we have added 500 developers. So we continue to invest in the technology area, especially in M-Pesa, but also the whole IT infrastructure. Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to see whether Honorable Kaluma there's anything that I left. I think I've answered most of your questions. It was the same question. Then there was a question that was asked about national security and whether we are going to lose as a result of the increase in Vodacom's shareholding, in particular whether it will affect the way we transmit elections. In terms of election transmission, that is a role that the IEBC gives to providers in our sector, whether it's Safaricom, Airtel, Telecom Kenya, and others who have telecom infrastructure, and that will continue to be the case. And it is handled as part of key government, key national infrastructure that can be utilized in moments like those. We do not expect that anything will change. Indeed, the other parties or the other players in the industry who are 100% owned, foreign owned, and we do not see any change that will happen as a result of that. Yeah, and one thing that I wanted to emphasize, but I've already mentioned, is the whole aspect about safeguarding data. So the integrity of data following the Data Protection Act is one commitment that I want to make. We have always been making it every time we speak to the public, that they will have a safe, secure network that protects their data and protects their money, because it's not just about data, but it's also money. And we are happy to have any scrutiny from this committee or the National Assembly as far as this obligation is concerned. And we are happy that this question has been asked, and I'm very happy to make that commitment. There was a general question that was made about legal cases that are outstanding, including one that may have been presented earlier today to the committee through the chair. I want to say that the increase in shareholding by Vodacom does not change the rights and obligations of Safaricom as an entity, as a PLC. So Safaricom continues to carry on the business and the obligations that it has with respect to its suppliers continue as is. If there are some legal cases, those we need to allow the legal processes to go through. I wouldn't comment on any of the cases that currently in front of the court. But what I would say is that we will meet the obligations, legal obligations that we have as far as suppliers or any other parties are concerned, to the extent that they relate to Safaricom from a legal perspective. And then let me come to your questions, Chair. And I think the 34 shillings, whether it's fairly priced, I think I've gone through that. The question about whether with the increase in shareholding and with the Vodacom going above 50, whether we maintain a Kenyan-centric innovation mindset, that I can confirm. And actually our vision does confirm that. And I should say that Vodacom has been a big part of that preparation of that vision, so I don't see that changing. I've said already that the brand will remain Kenyan and the color scheme doesn't change. In terms of the price points that we sell, either M-Pesa, mobile data, and also voice, a lot of this, of the governance around pricing is through the regulators. The oversight around whether prices are right or not is through the central bank and also the Communication Authority of Kenya. We do not see, and actually we have been reducing our pricing in the past 4 years. M-Pesa, we have reduced prices by about 55%. We reduced data price by about 60%, and also voice by about 50%. We do not see any change in that process of setting price, because what we are focused on is ensuring that customers get the best value. We continue to invest to ensure that we secure the future of the digital future of Kenya. And then in terms of dividends and capital allocation priorities, that does not change. We have a very clear dividend policy that we have always advanced, and that will not change. And that has been that has been message to all shareholders, not just Vodacom, but also the minority shareholders. So I don't see that changing at all. And then on the foundation side, I've already spoken to some of the safeguards that we have. The fact that these are trusts, we have clear priorities, and we are committed to making sure that we continue to invest in Kenyans' well-being. I was just checking that I've answered all the questions, Chair. Chair, honorable members, I think that was hopefully I've answered the key themes. And if there is anything that has not been answered, we are happy to ensure that it is put in writing as part of our formal submissions to this committee.
Thank you, CEO. If there are follow-up questions from honorable members, perhaps on the issue of data missing. I think it's in the wisdom of the national treasury institution on paper. There's a provision of 3 years redundancy, and one of the many things that have been coming up from our stakeholders, especially whether it is the employees or the dealers or the agents, is could we increase that redundancy protection period from 3 years maybe to 5 years or 7 years? Do you think that would materially affect the transaction of your cost of doing business? Is it something that you think would be appropriate to safeguard the interests of this particular stakeholders, not just by the commitment that we give them, but also by a commitment in writing or through the legal framework as per the session of permission? What I would ask, I would follow up question there, another point.
Okay, Chair, thank you, Chair. A lot of the stakeholders and people who came to public participation had shown concern about the security of the data that is held by Safaricom. Whether changes, especially now that Vodafone or Vodacom has become the majority shareholder, whether that will affect the data security. Could you assure us First, let us know where is the data, the millions and billions of data that you collect every day. Is it stored here? Is it stored overseas? Under what jurisdiction does it, knowing that we are in a global village also, we are also alive to the fact that data keeps on going from one place to another, that it is not stationary. So where is your primary servers, where are they held? Is it in Kenya or somewhere else? Two, you have been involved in every facet of the Kenyan life, from our M-Pesa to our phones, to our other data. Now you are in SHA, you are in our elections. If we cede a control of this company to a foreign shareholder, albeit one who has been with us for 25 years, are we going also to that security of all the data that you've generated? Can you assure us as the CEO that Kenyans should sleep safe at night, that knowing that any changes will not affect the information? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is just a quick one on the issue that you just addressed. The dealers did appear before us, and they had a raft of fears in terms of now change of management, shareholding structure. And one of the issues that actually caught me, and I thought they had a valid concern, is the issue of their contracts. Previously, they were signing contracts for 5 years, but the one that they signed recently was for 3 years. So they're wondering whether this sale had been envisioned and what is likely to happen going forward now that the shareholding is going to be in the hands of majority. And I think it's quite a valid question. You know, Safaricom is what it is today because of these people, the dealers, the major drivers of your business to where it matters. And therefore, they're quite a stakeholder that cannot be ignored. You dealers and agents and all these people, the numbers that are working under Safaricom in those sectors cannot just be underestimated. So I would want to hear exactly what you envision as the CEO of the company.
Rapiro, you have a question?
Yeah, this is the last question. I know the rules of this country. Once a shareholder is holding over 55% of the shares, over 50% of the shares, they always have a say of how a company is run. Do you foresee, when a CEO, Vodacom coming up with their own CEO and their way of running business and letting you go away and get their own person? Two, we have been told that Vodacom have issues, court issues in South Africa. They have court issues in some countries. And once they take over as the majority shareholder, maybe there will be a court case and they will not honor it, they will not respect it. Do you foresee a case where Vodacom will be sued in court and they will not be willing to obey the laws of this country? Thank you.
That's an interesting one. Mr. CEO?
Yeah. So, Chair and honorable members, I wanted to make sure that I answer the questions when they are few. So that at least I can make sure I do justice to the detail of them. I think the first question was on safeguards and whether 3-year is the right range of. So I think the first is the intention of the safeguards is to show that there is not intention to disrupt how the business operates. And that is the spirit of those safeguards. 3 years is a long time. I mean, we have been 3 years in Ethiopia.